Hello, my name is Alan, and today I am facilitating the first of 5 sessions of Fate of Cthulhu. This is organised as part of the Gauntlet RPG community's monthly events calendar, and I'm lucky enough to have some great players from the Gauntlet with me today. Fate of Cthulhu is from Evil Hat, and I think somewhere in the book it says something like, this is much more Terminator than Shadows over Innsmouth, because the principle of this game is that in the future, one of the great old ones is going to rise. In our session, we've decided that's going to be Nyarlathotep. Other pronunciations are available. And that's happening in the future. We have one time traveler among our characters who has come back to 2020 or thereabouts, in order to try and correct the timeline so the great old one never rises. And through various means has managed to gather a group of present day characters around them. So that's the premise. This is a game that could get quite gory. You know, we are playing Cthulhu here, full on. We are playing with, you know, corruption, the way that the old gods may well corrupt the characters, or we may see non-player characters who have been corrupted in all kinds of ways. And so this does come with quite a kind of 18+ warning in terms of the content. But we are playing with a set of safety tools to try to make sure that we don't cross any lines that make one another uncomfortable. And the safety tools that we're playing with is the X card. I've played with all of these players before, so they know that I'm not very good at monitoring the chat. So the best way to get me to mark the X card is to kind of just, you know, tell me very visually. But I will say, folks, if one of you makes a note in the chat and I don't appear to notice it, and one of the others of you does notice it, please don't hesitate to play the X card. And that will just stop the fiction in its tracks, because something has made one of you or more than one of you uncomfortable. I may ask you how far back in the fiction you want me to go, and then we'll play forward, avoiding the fictional content that led you to made you feel uncomfortable and play the X card. And I will also say that if you don't play the X card when something comes up, and then later on you think, actually, I wasn't terribly comfortable with that, and it comes up again, play the X card. Yeah, it is always in play. It is always possible to play it. And I've had people play an X card when I had an NPC with a name, and it was a nasty NPC, and somebody they were very fond of had that name. We changed the name. It's not a big deal. Yeah. So we're playing with the X card. We're also playing with lines and veils, and there is a lines and veils tab in the character keeper. Feel free to go to that, players, and add any lines or veils. I've put some starting lines and veils in there already. We're also playing with the Gauntlet Code of Conduct, which is you know, a great tool. I increasingly use it with all my games, on or off the Gauntlet. And you know, we are playing to have fun together. So you know, I will endeavour to check in. If I don't check in and you're feeling things aren't going the way that you hope the game would go, please let me know. And finally, we're playing with an open door, which means that if something comes up in the real world and you need to step away from the table, that's fine. Similarly, if it turns out not to be the game you thought it was going to be, you know, none of us should sit here playing a game we're not enjoying. So if it's not working for you, the open door is there. And also, you know, sometimes if something gets a little bit intense and you need to step away, that's fine. We'd love for you to come back, but just leave us a message saying, you know, I'm done for now, and we'll just carry on without you until such time as you come back. So with all of that said, let me then say, let's meet our players and our characters. So shall we go in character keeper order? So, Lowell, say hello and tell us something about Nessa al-Ghumari.
My name is Lowell, pronouns he, him. My character is Nessa al-Ghumari. In this game, I've made the choice of doing from the present day. She's a person who does practical effects, builds tricks for magicians, that kind of thing. So she's kind of crafter, technician. That's her real skill set. The way that she got into this is she saw what she thought was a trick, and that led her down the rabbit hole trying to figure out how it was done, and then eventually realizing that it wasn't a trick per se, and got caught up in all of this weirdness. Still thinks that maybe there are some tricks going on. Certainly has that in the back of her mind, so that whenever she sees something that is kind of inexplicable, she kind of wants to know, is there an irrational explanation? Is there a way we can see behind this? She herself is half Irish, half Moroccan. Her dad, Moroccan, probably a diplomat, and her mom was an entertainer. And so she's been traveled quite a bit during her life. And that's sort of how I'm imagining her.
Thank you. Moving on, Will, say hello and tell us about Agent Rook.
Hi. Agent Rook is a member of Delta Green, a anti-mythos conspiracy that is essentially a completely illegal operation. You know, it's not the Men in Black with a full budget and all of those things. It is black. It is everything siphoned off. It is complete fraud and conspiracy and a willingness to do whatever it takes to keep this exact situation from occurring. And Rook was recruited into Delta Green during his first tour in Afghanistan, and then over the next 10 years or so had a storied career within the CIA, aided by his Delta Green contacts. You know, always seemed to be in the right place at the right time to put a bullet in some cultist's head and burn the bodies, including the one with the 5 legs. But yeah, he's come across all of this thing he was contacted by his future self, who traveled too far back, missed the landing point in this particular time travel situation, and he was given the mission to to stop the apocalypse, and probably coordinates and contact and the name of our coming character who is from the future. So basically, Rook has spoken to his future self, seen himself die, and now knows what the mission is, and this is his mission.
Thank you. That's very interesting. Then let us consider our time traveler. Bodhi, say hello and tell us about Professor Avery Quinn.
So, hi, I'm Bodhi, pronouns they, them, playing Professor Avery Quinn, also pronouns they, them. Avery is a professor of occult sciences, and in their words, it is a science, damn it. It's they've got no time for superstitious nonsense. They're insatiably curious about the mythos. They think it's explicable. They may be proven wrong about that. They probably will be proven wrong about that. And they were chosen based on their knowledge of mythos lore, to go back in time with Agent Rook in order to stop the apocalypse, and turns up and there's no Agent Rook, and kind of very much the brains, very much not the muscle or the contacts, so it's got off to a great start, this time travel.
Can I just ask, the Nyarlathotep rises in about 2028, so you've come back from beyond that date, and I'm just curious if you want to be specific about how far you've come back, because that would give us an idea of whether Avery exists in the present as well as your Avery coming back to the present. I'm just curious.
I think I haven't come back that far. I'm thinking maybe from about 20, so it would be 2028, maybe 2035, thereabouts, because I imagine that any vestiges of resistance aren't going to last too much longer than that with the Dark Pharaoh rising. So it's, yeah, I think about 2035.
Okay. Yes, certainly. I think that probably doing a deal with Yog-Sothoth in order to travel in time was probably a desperate measure. So the resistance probably thinks it doesn't have long left. So given that well, I'm looking at the picture of Avery. I'm saying Avery is in early 30s, late 20s. Yeah.
Early 30s, I'd say.
So in 2020, she's probably an undergraduate somewhere, isn't she?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Right, just so I've got a kind of sense of any Avery we were to meet. Lowell, you had a question.
To confirm, your pronouns are they, them on Avery?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's right. I got them wrong the first time I did it because despite using they, them pronouns myself, I am terrible at them.
Not a problem. I just wanted to make sure.
And I don't think I said my pronouns are he, him. Apologies. Okay, and our final player and character, Colum, say hello and introduce us to Illtyd Aderyn McFee.
Hello, I am Callum, pronouns he, him. I'm gonna play Illtyd Aderyn McFee, who I'm not sure if he's Welsh, Scottish, or whatever, so I apologize in advance for the mispronunciation, which will be, and I will state it here, that his origins are not very clear. It's probably a mix of, Northern Atlantic, French, Welsh, Scots, Irish, Welsh. He's got all of that over several generations, probably Spanish, Basque, and whatever you can think of. So that's the justification for my terrible accent when I will play him. It's really a pity that I cannot show his picture because I find it's a beautiful picture. So Illtyd is a craft fisherman veteran. He's been at sea all his life in the toughest conditions. He's a tough man. Thank you very much, Alan. Yeah, there he is. Beautiful. It's a real individual. I apologize if this individual is watching this game and is annoyed that I use his likeness. But yeah, he's a veteran crab fisherman, a man of the people, a tough guy. I'm not gonna go through reading my feats, but it doesn't know much, but what he knows he's convinced of. And sadly enough, at some point, somewhat recently, he lost his son at sea, which probably linked to the reason why he ended up in this big story involving conspiracies, beings from other dimensions. Somehow, as he was on the path for recovering his son who was lost at sea, he ran into people, I guess. But I don't know myself at this point, so we'll find out.
Yes, indeed, because I'm quite interested in finding out what I'm going to call him McFee, because I think none of us want to struggle too much with Illtyd. So let's call him McFee. What was McFee's reaction when a quiet night somewhere in the North Sea, and there is a flash of light, and kneeling on the deck of his boat is the naked Avery Quinn?
Probably been complaining about refugees trying to get into Great Britain all this time. So he kept hearing about those and reading about those in tabloids. I didn't think it was a true story, but then he finds one on the deck of his ship. So he started yelling at that person and not being like, yelling, being mad, but still bringing that person to the warm cabin and putting a blanket over them, but rather roughly asking that person, so where are you from? You're from Spain, Northern Africa? You're here to steal jobs?
Avery, what was your, because clearly you did not appear in the same place and time as your contact or your partner in this, the future Rook.
Mm-hmm.
So what was your reaction? What did you do? What did you say?
I think I'm very flustered. I'm not experienced in tradecrafts. I think I literally say that I'm from the future.
Colum,
It's a new one.
I'm inclined at this point to compel your trouble aspect. I have no idea how much I don't know, which I think would leave you relatively open-minded to what you don't know.
I guess so. I guess my first reaction would be to go in one of the drawers and pick up a bottle of strong alcohol and hand it to Avery to warm them up.
So you can have a fate point for being welcoming to Avery Quinn, and Avery, how are you going to convince? What approach do you take to convince McFee to become involved in this? What kind of appeal do you make to him?
I'm going to say that there's probably some procedure for paying off random people that we encounter, and there's a way of verifying myself in the current time, and I'm basically going for, trust me, it will be worth your while if you take me here.
And where is it? Because you're right, there is a system, and the system that was in place was that Rook was supposed to contact his present day self in order to set things in motion, because he thought he'd believe him. So the closest you've got is, you know, that you were supposed to find Agent Rook. So that's where any reward would sit. Yeah? Okay. Let me talk to Agent... No, let me go first to our crafter, tricks and trapster, Nessa al-Ghumari. What's the first scene in this miniseries when we see Nessa?
I think that she is like back in the back of house for a hotel, and she's got a bag that looks weirdly suspicious and bulky, and she is doing that hurried move where someone is trying to not look like they're running away, but is in fact running away. The implication being that I've stolen something or borrowed something from somewhere in the hotel, and I'm getting out through the kitchens and the laundry rooms and all of that.
Agent Rook, your future self told you that someone called Nessa al-Ghumari might be important in these events.
I was wondering if Nessa al-Ghumari had already been involved in some weirdness and perhaps crossed paths with Agent Rook in the past.
Well then, how does Agent Rook rescue Nessa al-Ghumari in the current circumstances? She bursts out the back of a hotel kitchen. Pick a place, Nessa?
Oh, let's do London. Essentially, it's a nice hotel, and I'm heading out, and I've got tickets to go to a West End show, and I'm using that as my cover and trying to get out of here and blend in with the crowd ASAP.
So, Agent Rook, what do we see?
We see Nessa cutting through traffic as people follow her, and it's it's gridlock kind of thing. And then the door of a black cab just swings open and grabs Nessa and pulls her inside. And Rook is sat there.
What's in the bag, Nessa?
It's equipment. I don't know what it is. Like when I grabbed it, I wasn't sure what it is. I'm not sure if it's occult. I'm not sure if it's mechanical. It glows a color that I can't quite identify, and it's all jammed in there. This was me kind of following up on somebody who had done an inexplicable thing, and I've stolen their stash.
Because you have to know how that works, don't you?
Absolutely. I'm going to take this thing apart.
Yeah. So I think that you have self-compelled your trouble for a fate point, just to get us in the groove. Agent Rook, you know that as well as future Rook, somebody called Avery Quinn, as he died in your arms, the elder Rook told you that Avery Quinn should be nearby. When she's not, what do you do?
I have got like web crawlers out in various dead drops and places. You know, if you leave a message here, messages are from Avery Quinn. You know, like if anyone types in the keywords into Google, like deep web things will ping back to Delta Green servers and set up a report. I have got all ears and eyes out for Avery Quinn. Yeah.
Okay. Avery, how are you going to convince McFee to go to London with you? Just to say, at this point, I assume there's been a sufficient conversation between McFee and Quinn for the stuff that's already on your character sheets to be more or less transparent.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking one easy way you can convince someone that you're from the future is tell them what happened.
Whoa, whoa,
tomorrow.
whoa.
So, now the question is, I'm struggling to think of anything relevant that a scientist would know that would be discoverable from a crabbing boat in the middle of the North Sea. So I think I'm holding off on the convincing McFee I'm from the future, and going with the convincing McFee that I think I'm convincing McFee that I can give him money if we get to London, but I think it kind of rolls around to the weirdness of me being there, and I think conversation gets around to McFee's son, and
Yeah,
so
I was about to say that might be everything which goes through your mind as you're lying on that chair with that blanket over you, but what I would suggest that it might not be a coincidence exactly that there was a round there in this area, and maybe what you find, and that might explain why my reaction is not totally dismissive of what you're saying. Maybe there are paper, in the cabin. You realize it's not, maybe not one of these huge crab fishing things. It's more a fishing boat McFee got for his own, and in the cabin. There are actually news clippings, the pin board with the stuff, maybe some things which are slightly in the tone of lore stuff you would know about, but McFee, who doesn't know much, has been looking for his son who disappeared, and he actually found out some stuff, but he did not connect the dots literally on that wall with those. But when you see those, you're like, wait a minute, this person is actually after something. I don't know who that is, but
I think I mentioned something which happened, which you never told anyone about because it was too unbelievable and has never made it into the news reports. I think that's how I convinced you, by saying, hey, was this atmospheric phenomenon at the time, was the kind of strange glowing purple lights in a starburst shape the night that your son disappeared.
Can I just ask, why are you asking him the questions when he's got a pin board with loads of stuff on it? Surely you are insatiably curious about what's on the pin board.
So yeah, I'm asking all about it, and it's clear from what I'm saying that I know more about this than anyone McFee's ever come across.
Okay, I'm happy for that trouble to have earned you a fate point, and I'm going to assume that's enough to get McFee on board.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Okay, let me go back to Agent Rook. Rook, when you get some pings on Avery Quinn, how do you approach any meeting with this supposed Avery Quinn, who you, of course, have never seen?
Yeah, I think I've got a very good description. You know what I mean? Like it was that I think my past self was maybe here for my future self. Sorry, was like here for quite some time before they died. You know, like but were crippled by the whole thing. So it was like a debrief sort of thing, like interrogation style. Working out that they're definitely me kind of thing.
I'm pressing you on the not knowing everything, I'm afraid, because it's too simple for you to have all the benefits of being from the future with none of the concomitant disadvantages. So I'm going to cut that a bit short.
I tell you what, there is a what's it called? Like the phrase, you know, that they used to do in World War One, the World War Two. You know, like where you'd say a word, you'd say a sentence, and someone would a call response thing.
The leaves of autumn are redder this year.
Yeah, and it's what do you do when the exterminators like burn the house down?
So you're prepared to get up close to this supposed Avery Quinn and have a conversation?
Yes, I am, because I think that it's like I stalk them, you know, I watch them, I stake them out, I like trail them. They're not, you know, they don't know tradecraft, they don't know that stuff. I am creeping up on them and then just coming up to them and just coming up behind them and saying, what do you do when the exterminator's like gun like in my pocket, you know, like ready to pull out and shoot the both of them.
Avery, you know Agent Rook. Mm-hmm. What clues you in that this is not the Agent Rook you were expecting?
I think it being Avery, I immediately kind of start talking about the kind of what we were doing immediately before we traveled. I'm just assuming that this is the Agent Rook that's traveled back from the future and kind of went back a bit far. And I'm clued in by the utterly blank and confused look on all of this and kind of backpedal rapidly and kind of start looking around wildly, wondering if I've made a huge mistake.
Agent Rook, I think that you self-compelled paranoid with a reason. It took a bit of pushing, but I think you got there. So you can have a fate point as well, just to get us all off with a bit of fate point in our pocket. So that brings the four of you together. The brief outline that Rook got about Avery Quinn, Rise of the Great Old One, all that stuff, can now be shared by Avery, because Avery is absolutely briefed solid on this. And you'll find in the Time Traveler briefings, I've just snipped some stuff out of the book on this, but if you want the highlights, you'll see there's a note attached to the event, which is just my view of the kind of cheap and nasty version of what's happened. So for the benefit of our audience, I will just now tell them what our setup is. We know that Nyarlathotep rises in 2028, but a couple of years before 2020, Dr. Sung Delapore and Worth from Miskatonic Poly discovered they were volcanologists, they were climbing volcanoes in Antarctica. And after an avalanche, the avalanche on the mountain revealed a great stone arch and stone doors about 40 feet high, covered in carvings. Unfortunately, there was an aftershock, and Dr. Sung falls into a crevasse and is lost. Delapore breaks a leg, but Worth gets them out. I've missed a name. there. I think, is it Worth or is it, I think it's Worth. No, I think I've got a wrong name there. Worth managed to get them out in the lighter aircraft they'd used to get to the site. They'd been social media videoing, obviously, throughout the time they'd been on the climb. And Dr. Soong's death is recorded on a video feed that one of them was running at the time, along with the panic. And there's a bit of a Twitter storm about whether they, were they responsible? Their reputations are being shredded by social media. But then, out of that storm comes an approach from a church they've never heard of, the Church of Starry Wisdom. And the church offers to fund a complete expedition to go back to the Antarctic and look for these doors. No one asked any questions, but it is a really big deal. It's all over the media. It's one of the largest expeditions staged by a non-national body to the Antarctic in recent years. And behind me, you can see a picture, a still picture taken from the camp once it's set up. This was about a month and a half ago, Agent Rook. And they have been there for about a month and a half. Now, what the briefing tells, what Quinn can tell you, is that after about 3 months in the Antarctic, they said that they'd found the doors. They filmed the doors. You could see the doors with the carvings on. And they announced they'd found a way to open them, and they were intending to open them the next day. And a large number of media were flown into the base for that big event the following day. That was the last that was heard from any of them. A summer storm swept in, which kept any kind of rescue effort when nothing came through on the feeds and they couldn't be contacted. A joint rescue mission was staged from McMurdo and Scott bases. When they got there, they discovered that the entire thing had been destroyed in an enormous avalanche. The bottom line is that in 2028, one of the signs of the rise of Nyarlathotep was the explosion of every Antarctic volcano, out of the top of which came some winged creatures. Those winged creatures resemble some of the carvings on the doors and arches that are in public record. And so the resistance is convinced that something went on at this point in time that, if altered, changed, investigated, could alter the timeline leading to the rise of the Dark Pharaoh. And that was Quinn and Rook's mission, to get to that expedition and to stop whatever mistake was made that set the rise of the Dark Pharaoh in motion, as a pen picture. Yeah? You can refer to that for more detail if you want it. I don't know whether you'll need it. The good thing is that there is every 4 days, there's a rotation of kind of maintenance and cooks and all kind of support staff into the expedition base from McMurdo. And according to Avery, the expedition disappeared in about 6 weeks' time. So I think I'm going to start with Agent Rook. If you believe all of this, what's your suggestion for how you get there?
As official investigators, of course, accredited. A retired 4-star general somewhere picks up a phone, rings up somebody else, people exchange code phrases, and next thing you know, Agent Rook is accredited as a, you know, like Chuck Vanderbeer investigator for, you know, whatever. You're muted, Alan.
That sounds like contacts.
Yes, it does, doesn't it?
Against whatever the security or suspicion of this expedition. Now they are being incredibly open. You know, there are video feeds from the place. There's a live kind of cam running all the time on the base onto the internet. So I don't think the difficulty is very high. I'm going to say that the difficulty for this is simply 2.
Okay. And would that be then 2 added to the dark dice? Is that right?
Well, so you're trying to beat 2. And
Okay.
so you roll the light dice and the dark dice, take the highest from the lowest, we end up with a light or dark number, plus or minus, plus your skill in that area, plus any aspect you might then want to invoke, but that's after the roll. So let's just have you roll the dice. And pip dice are dark.
No, pip dice are light and numbers dice is dark.
Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. Yeah. I knew I'd get that the wrong way around.
But it's a 3 on 3, and if we then add the difficulty, that would be a.
Well, the way I deal with this is you just add your skill.
5 then.
5 versus my difficulty of 2. You succeed by 3.
Oh, okay.
You with me?
Yeah, I think I am. Yeah.
And that is what I'm just curious where the 5 came from.
Plus 2.
Oh, sorry. I right. So it's 0 plus 2 is 2.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. The difference between the dice is 0. Plus contacts at 2 is 2. Difficulty is 2, so that is a tie.
Okay. Can I invoke an aspect?
Would you like to invoke an aspect at the cost of a fate point?
Yes, I will invoke the anti-mythos agent of an illegal conspiracy. My high
Exactly
concept.
so.
Yeah.
So you mark your fate point down by 1. That adds 2. You succeed. Now you go to 4 because an invoke on an aspect will usually give you plus 2. That gives you success, but not success with style. And success means that it goes exactly as you'd hoped. And so, depending on what the others have in mind, they can have accreditation. So let me go to friend Nessa. Nessa, does this seem like a good plan to you, or have you got any other ideas about how you could get onto that expedition? I was muted when I said you are muted. You are still muted, Lowell.
So it definitely seems Rook's style to go in as an investigator and not talk to people for that. So, but that doesn't nice to see my skill set, nor perhaps the skill set of McFee. So I think that this is working to get us just the most modest cover identities to go in as a part of that rotation. I think that's the obvious entry point. Plus, it gives us 2 directions to come from, actually, at that point. And I will say to Quinn, do you want me to see about getting you in that way, or do you want to follow Rook's lead?
I think I'll go with Rook. I think that's where I don't think I'd be very convincing as one of the workers. I think.
Oh yeah, no, you
a lot more.
and that is probably
I'll take that.
That is probably what the original plan was. To get Rook and Quinn on board as kind of in some kind of formal capacity. McFee, how do you feel about either putting a collar and tie on or going in as a kind of laborer, maintenance technician, cook, bottle washer?
I think I would be much more comfortable going there as a worker. So the overall, the bucket with the mop, something like that.
Oh yeah.
Or a delivery person.
So I don't have any problem applying that success with Rook's contacts in order to get you two the necessary paperwork to appear in a rotation into the camp.
Someone's passport gets pulled suddenly and they can't fly out to McMurdo and they need a replacement, and oh look, you're here, somehow you're floated to the top of the pile.
Because these rotations are over 4 days, McFee and I keep forgetting her name,
Nessa?
Nessa, you are going to have a 4-day window before they rotate you out.
Oh, you're only up there for 4 days?
And then they rotate another 4 days, and then you go back 4 days later. So just be aware of that.
We'll sabotage the transports. It's okay.
Rook and Quinn, is the plan to get there well in advance of when the expedition went dark? Or do you want to get there, on the eve of it going dark?
I feel like we want a bit more time than on the eve. It's I'm concerned about how long our cover will hold, because I think that I think we could say that we know that the Church of Starry Wisdom is a malicious actor here. I think that can we say that becomes obvious in the future?
You'll notice at the top of the character sheets on the Keeper, I've put all the timeline aspects that are in play, and those are true at all times.
Mm-hmm.
Though each of them is related to one event, all of them are true all of the time. So the Church of Starry Wisdom is powerful and growing is common knowledge, and is certainly believed to be linked to the rise of the Great Old One.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
they're
I'm
funding this entire expedition.
I'm concerned with how long our cover's going to last, because they're clearly going to be on the lookout for people acting against them. So we can't get there too far before. That's where the tension is. It's kind of, if we get there too soon, our cover's going to be blown before we see anything. If we get there too late, it'll already have all happened. So
I think Rook is supremely confident that they will keep their cover. If they arrive too late to stop anything, the whole thing was for nothing anyways. And the risks of the risk of what he doesn't know is far outweighs the risk of getting caught, kind of thing. And so Rook would be pushing for a 3-week, as long as possible, basically, ahead of the thing.
And putting up with the fact that McFee and al-Ghumari will be rotated in every 4 days.
I suppose so, yeah. Perhaps if where needed, we might pull a string or something to sort of, break a piece of equipment breaks down or whatever, right? You know what I'm saying?
Let's at least coordinate such that our first rotation in coincides with your arrival, just so we get those first 4 days to burn everything to the ground. I mean, to figure the problem
out. So I think we probably cut to a helicopter arriving at the expedition base with the rotation and these 2 officials. I'm just curious, officials from...
I think from... I'm not sure what... McMurdo's a American station, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. I'm not sure what jurisdiction or whatever, but I'm sure there's some sort of connection with some, military industrial complex aspect, and it's all to do with that kind of thing.
I'm wondering if a good cover is environmental protection.
Because the EPA, the Office of the EPA, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
We're the Office of the EPA.
Yeah, make sure that they're complying with all the waste disposal and not disturbing the wildlife and everything to do with that, and that gives us a good excuse to go poking in everywhere.
Yeah, and I also know that EPA agents, some of them are licensed to carry handguns, so that's a good thing to know.
Oh, you have to actually ignore me. I'm thinking of the Arctic, not the Antarctic.
Yeah. There's no risk of polar bears here.
Yeah.
So as we see you coming off and being met very differently, so I think we'll see Nessa and McFee being met by one of the technical leads and being led off with their kind of duffel bags, while Rook and Quinn are met by the two principals, Delacour and Worth. And I think that's where we'll take our first break. It's 4 minutes past the hour now. Shall we? I need to make a cup of tea. Shall we be back at 1/4 past the hour? See you then.
I love that we've got this fisherman just roped into everything.
Yeah. I started with the transhumanist trip, and I was like, you know what, fuck that shit.
Yeah. But like working class, like the everyman. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's good.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
So.
Yeah. How'd your kids' first day at nursery go?
Quite well. Actually, that's the thing which works best recently. He went back starting this Monday,
Mm-hmm.
and he walked through the door on its own, which was like even better than before we left, because the situation's been that we've been on abroad for 3 weeks visiting the family and on holiday with family. But once we were back, we were 2 weeks self-isolation
Mm.
because we were abroad in France. And now is finally the week when my son is back at the nursery.
Yeah.
But my mother is here, which was nice, but it's still
Still different. Like it's not settled kind of thing.
I'm all over the place at the moment. I've been sick also. I got tested for COVID. So
Yeah.
So a character who doesn't know what's going on, it's perfect. I'm gonna roleplay the hell out of that.
Nice.
But of course, I'm following very well what's going on.
Okay, back after that break. So let's talk to McFee. McFee, what do we see you doing then?
I think after McPhee being out of the spotlight for a while, and maybe some of the other people in the operation wondering about where he's off and being worried about him being uncovered. I think the scene cuts to a shot of him. It's kind of a basement, I guess, or a storage room of some kind.
I think storage
And,
room probably. I doubt we'll have a basement.
Yeah. So it's storage room. There's a little bunch of people, and the scene is Illtyd is busy having a, how do you call that in English? Strong arm contest with
Arm wrestling.
another worker, and people are gambling behind them on who's gonna win. But that's how he's socialized with the least academic of the people around here.
And certainly, there's a rough cohort of people because well, let's see how much you learn by joining this group then. So I think that you're probably engaging your stunt. Because of my fisherman heritage, I can use physique instead of rapport, but only with common workers. And this seems to be absolutely perfect for that. So you roll your dice, positive or negative will be highest, and then we'll apply the physique. I think the difficulty here again is only 2. I'm not stretching this yet.
Okay. So what does that mean? I've got
So,
a dark one and a 6 white.
Okay, so the dark dice is 1, that's negative. The light dice is 6, that's positive. So that is a net +5. Yes, viewers, +5 on the dice. And you also have +4 physique. So that is a total of +9 against my difficulty of 2, which is success by 7. And if, again, we'll do this a bit slowly because I know some of you are not familiar with Fate. So if you now look at the circumstances, I think that's a straight overcome to just become one of the boys. So to surmount an obstacle, i.e. to become one of the boys, I think that is success with style. Succeed, achieve your goal, say what you do next, and get a boost doing it. So you are clearly in the group now, and you have a boost that you could use to exploit that relationship. How do you want to exploit this relationship, McPhee?
I'd like something like there are a few people I came so close to that I feel that I could come clean with them. I didn't tell them the most fantastical aspects, like I'm with a guy from or a girl, I'm not sure, I'm with a day from the future. Yeah, don't worry about that. That's some stuff they told me about that. They call pronouns, so but you need to respect that. But yeah, I wasn't aware of that before on my fisherman work. But he got so close to a couple of them that he came clean with them. He said, "Look, the real reason is here is that I lost my boy. You see, I'm trying to find him. So I've been looking around. There's weird things going on over here, and they're not telling him everything to the workers. You know, the brain, the lab coat, and so on. So yeah, yeah. Would you help me?"
I think that sounds like investigate to find out what they know. And that boost of +2, I think, does apply. So let's have that roll straight into investigate. So again, and the difficulty, I think, is probably 3, because you're right. They aren't the people who know all the details, but maybe they know something.
So I've got a 5 on the dark, a 3 on the white.
Okay, so the dice tell you -2. Your investigate is 2, so that gets to 0, but you've got the boost gets you to +2. Yeah, so you have succeeded. And I think what they can tell you is that, well, you know, they've found what they were looking for. And he kind of points, though he's indoors, he points in the direction to the mountain, which is about 1.5 miles away. That's where the work's being done. You know, we use the tractors to get there. And Billy over there was on the detail when they exposed this great chunk of rock, but it's got all kinds of freaky carvings on it, and that was just yesterday. And then Billy's gone off on the helicopter that brought you.
Wow, that's tough. I hope he's all right. Well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell the others. Thanks, mate. You know,
I want to cut that there. We'll worry about what you do with that information in a moment. How do our EPA agents? You're greeted by Delacour and Worth, who are very keen to tell you that, you know, they're following all the rules. They appreciate the honor it is to be allowed to stage this kind of operation here. So how can they help you? Rook? Oh, Quinn first.
I think Rook is definitely presenting Quinn as the expert. You know, I'm the sort of authority kind of thing, and he's the guy who knows his stuff.
So I run through. I start running through a long checklist of things that we need to have ticked off in order to kind of them to pass the inspection. And it doesn't go unnoticed among the audience that this checklist basically involves us having access to pretty much everything in the base and where they're doing the work, but there's a convincing environmental reason for each one of them. And I'm wondering if I can use my stunt, my technobabble stunt here to deceive about something scientific.
As you were speaking, I was trying to phrase it in the form of the game. So because you have a scientific background, you get +2 to deceive. Now you have to say, is this when you want to overcome opposition to something you want to do, or to create an advantage that you could use in some other way? The circumstance you're in at the moment, I think, is a straightforward overcome any resistance they have to showing you round.
Mm-hmm. Sure, let's go with that, because that's the first one that became relevant. So let's go with overcome. You're muted again.
Fine.
Oh.
Sorry, I must have hit a key.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that giving you access to everything is not straightforward. They were expecting to, you know, they show you their environmental audit and that it would be a paper exercise. So I think this is difficulty 3 at this point in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's deceive. Nessa.
I would like to create an advantage since we've arrived there.
Nessa, do tell me.
I think we're going to have arrived, and I want to do this quickly and in passing, but I want to arrange a leak of refrigerant or something else on the site that can be spotted to give them some leverage to make their push on the EPA claims.
That sounds like a straightforward craft. You are being led. I'm going to make the difficulty 3 just to keep you on your toes.
That seems fair.
Because nobody wants to trace this back to you.
Exactly. So let's see here. Ooh. I am going to now. We can spend to reroll in this
you
version.
can, because you are currently at -4 on that.
Yeah,
dice, if
I'm going
reading them
to
right.
spend a fate point to reroll.
And which aspect are you invoking?
I think this is engineer of tricks and traps.
Yeah,
It's
fine.
my high concept.
Okay.
Okay, that was.
It can't get worse than -4, can it?
Oh, see, now I know what that feels like. Well, now it's a 9. Now it's a +9.
Okay. Well, there's a change. Just as well you spent that fate point to roll
Yes.
again, isn't it? So that is success with style. So not only do you manage to do that, you create the advantage. Again, if I refer to those of you not familiar, create an advantage, create an aspect in the scene, succeed with style, get 2 free invokes on the aspect. So this is so bad that not only could you invoke it now, Avery, it's going to give you leverage later on as well. Yeah. So somebody make a note of that because I'll forget. So Avery, let's see how things go. You have what's that? Says Avery, spotting an unpleasant blue liquid spilling from the back of the kitchens.
Mm-hmm. And I think I immediately kind of start. I'd been walking around making kind of quite kind of pleasant little ticks on this sheet, and it switches into kind of angry crosses, and I take out a sampling vial and kind of stride over there, and I'm clearly kind of milking my kind of horror and anger at this kind of environmental problem for all it's worth here. And so
I think that you're rolling with academics here because that's what your technobabble allows you to do. Difficulty was 3.
Oh, that is a -2, but with the +4 that becomes a
+2.
+2, but I get an advantage, so I get another +2.
Exactly.
So
which gets you to success with
Mm-hmm.
style. So basically, I'm going to tell you what the boost is here. You can go anywhere. That seems to be.
Do I get success with style? Because I
thought you did, didn't you? Didn't you get to 4?
I got to.
Oh no, you're right.
With minus.
You're right.
I get to 2. I get to 2.
You're right. You're right. I'm sorry. I'm being too optimistic on your behalf. So there's 1 invoke left on the refrigerant, but you are given grudging access to the entire facility and the work site. Yeah. So let's then go to Rook. What do we see of Rook?
Rook is going to size up any representatives of the Starry Wisdom who are here. You know, the backers, the financial backers of this.
So that sounds like investigate to find them.
I suppose so. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because otherwise I was like, I contact the conspiracy for intel, and I'm just rolling contacts forever when I'm not shooting things, I suppose.
And I think it'd be quite difficult for you to contact the conspiracy from here without hijacking the radio hut.
Oh yes, entirely yes. So I roll the dice, both dice.
So you do. This is investigate. I think this is quite difficult because how do you tell? What are you looking for?
Well, I mean, more in the sense of the people who funded this Church of the Starry Wisdom, right? Everybody who's here has got a record, is known kind of thing. So who's the known representatives of the Starry Wisdom?
Well, the nice thing about this arrangement, as far as Worth and Delacour were concerned, that these were arm's length sponsors. The Starry Wisdom says, here's a load of money, go investigate this. It's glorious science.
Yeah, so then it's a straight up case of feeling out, like looking through, profiling people and threats and things like that. So yeah, investigate.
You've seen cultists in the past?
Yes, but I got a 2 on the light and a 3 on the dark, so that's a failure, isn't that right?
So that's -1, plus your investigate.
Which is a 0.
Is there anything you want to invoke to get that above a tie?
Can I invoke my trouble? Is that how that works? Or is that a different
Paranoid
way?
with a reason, yes.
Yeah.
You can. And in fact, I'll compel that so you can get a fate point out of it.
Okay, do I get anything extra for the dice?
I think that'll move you across into success.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that what I can tell you is that as you are being shown round, there is a guy always hovering on Delacour and Worth's shoulder, who is introduced as Judd Hamilton. And Judd, he just seems to be paying a lot of attention to you, the pair of you, not in a way that their personal assistant shouldn't necessarily. So I think there's probably a question mark in your mind over Judd Hamilton. Yeah?
Yep. What was the name of the other? He's the personal assistant to
Delacour and Worth, who are
Delacour and Worth,
who are the leaders of the expedition. Now they've arranged for Quinn and Rook to have to share a room. McFee and Nessa, you're in a kind of bunk of 4, a kind of dormitory of 4. So what do we see Nessa doing, say that night? Because you've settled in.
This is my first time doing this, and I'm a hard worker, so I'm going around and I'm like figuring out where all the systems are, where the junction boxes are, where the generators are, where the explosives are. I'm basically this time getting the lay of the land, but also if I see anything out of place, like there's additional private communications gear or something else that's around, that's the other thing I'm doing in this kind of walk around.
Is this more about finding stuff out?
Yeah, I think so.
Or knowing where stuff is so you could exploit it later?
No, I think this is about finding stuff right now to point to. If I need to, I can swing back and set some places later on.
I think that because this is an Antarctic base and a snowstorm could come in at any moment, all the huts are very noticeably labeled in fluorescent lettering. So dormitory 1, dormitory 2, dormitory 2, common living space, all of that stuff. Expedition office, but there is one hut, and I won't make you roll for this because I think this is just wandering around getting the lie of the land. There is one hut that is unlabeled, and has a very solid looking door on it. And you normally think, well, that's probably the storeroom where they keep the dangerous stuff. But then there's a storeroom, and then 50 yards away, there's a storeroom marked explosives and other dangerous chemicals.
Then I think I would like to try to pick the lock on this.
Go ahead. I think that is craft, isn't it?
It would be
Or
craft,
burglary.
but there's also
Yeah,
burglary.
there is. There is.
I would love it to be craft, but I have to
Sorry,
admit.
it is burglary.
So
I think the difficulty. This is a complicated lock. This is not just any kind of storeroom padlock.
makes me more excited about
difficulty
this.
is 3. And is this dusk, or are you doing this
Oh
secretly?
yeah, we're doing this. We're doing it when once it hits dark out right now.
Okay.
Ooh, this is why I hate this roller, because if for a second I had it, but I think that I'm going to have to invoke my high concept again.
Because you've rolled 0, you got 1 burglary, and
Yeah.
you're looking for a 3.
Yeah, so I'll take it to 3 to a tie.
Okay. And a tie, it says, succeed at a minor cost. Such as a boost to the opposition. No, I don't think it's a boost to the opposition. I think that as you look over your shoulder before you sneak in, you hear it click and you just look and go in. You could swear that just in the shadow of one of those huts, you saw someone watching and then they disappeared. Or you can fail.
No, I'll take the spot there. I'll
Okay.
have to tell Rook later on.
And inside is a load of technical equipment. That you know, there are oscilloscopes and screens and just stuff.
Yeah, this is me taking pictures.
I think it's worse than that, because I think you have to know how that works, which will take a little bit longer than just taking pictures. Yeah. Do you want to accept that compel and get a fate point?
I have to accept that compel.
Or you could buy me off.
No, I'll take the fate point. I've already spent 2. I need to keep my economy going.
Okay. Did you tell any of the others that you were going to do this? Because McPhee's in the dormitory with you.
I think I planned on just popping a lock and looking around. I didn't think it was going to get this deep.
Oh, this interesting.
Yes. Now I'm like, oh no, I haven't told anybody.
Fine. McPhee. Nessa has been. She said she was going to just take a wander around the camp, get the lay of the land, and she's been gone 30 minutes. What do you think?
I have a look. So do I know where? So she shares the same dormitory as I do. Yeah, I have a quick look if she took stuff like her coat, or did she pick up, stuff which would lead me to think that she would be gone for a while or not.
Stuff that made you think she'd be gone outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
While you're thinking about that, let's cut to Rook and Quinn sharing a meal with Worth, Delacour, and Hamilton. They explain that they're in the canteen. There's a large common canteen, but they've reserved a table over in the corner just to make you feel welcome. And they've got some beer, and they are clearly wanting to bend over backwards to get all the box ticked. So, Rook, what do we see you doing at around this dinner table?
I think he's quite reserved, and he's he's sort of going like, well, we're just here to make sure that everything is fine. It's a tragedy what happened to Dr. Sung, and everyone at the State Department is the EPA is hoping to put things to rest. When are you planning on going in?
And they look at one another and say, you know that was nothing to do with us.
I understand, gentlemen.
That's not what this is about, is it?
No, gentlemen. No, but I'm sure you appreciate that those questions have been asked, and it would be good to put them to rest forever. And our presence here will allow all of this to be official and put to bed.
Okay. Quinn, what are you doing, if anything, over dinner?
So I think I'm doing the thing that is most likely to get a pair of scientists talking, which is asking them lots of questions about their research and being interested, because I am insatiably curious.
Oh, you are, aren't you? Let's see how good, because you've got the leverage on them around your formal role, but let's see socially how you go with rapport then. And as you say, scientists love to talk about what they do, so the difficulty here is just 2 with your rapport.
So that is a 2 on the dice and a 2 and a +1 from rapport. So that's a success.
That is a success, and they will just gush about it. You know, it's just fantastic. We found it's taken us 6 weeks, but we had a rough idea where we were looking, but the avalanche before made such a mess of the site. So we've now exposed. Yesterday we exposed some of the archway, and today, before you arrived, we managed to get most of the doors cleared. It's just such a relief to have found it again. And we're trying to triangulate from the doors, Mr. Rook, we're trying to triangulate from the doors to actually work out where the crevasse, where we lost Dr. Sung is. So maybe we can, I guess, recover the body.
And you have no plans to excavate the site itself?
Part of our contract with Starry Wisdom is to find, document, and if possible, explore.
Once you found Dr. Sung's body, I think that could be appropriate.
That's certainly something we ensured was written into the contract, but of course our contract is with the church, and they're being very generous.
Of course, either myself or Dr. Quinn must be present for any such work. Must be briefed ahead of time.
I'm sure that'll be fine. Was there a sense of provoke in that, Rook, or?
If there is a provoke to be made in this sense, then yes, I would. I could do that.
It was just a hint. I don't want to push it.
No, I mean, I'm happy to. That's what I'm going for. I'm saying if there's more I can be gained from rolling for it than just the verbal.
Then let's have a roll for provoke. I think, again, these are scientists. They're not hardened criminals. I think the difficulty here is no more than 2.
Okie dokie. That is a match on those 2 dice. 2s.
0 plus whatever skill is. Ooh.
That's a 0 as well. But I would like to use the free invoke on the spill to call in the fact that it is. There's already mistakes being made.
Okay, so that adds 2, or would invite you to re-roll the dice.
Would adding 2 bring me to? I'm sorry, I really don't.
It brings you to a tie.
It brings me to a tie. I suppose I need to re-roll the dice then, really, don't I, to actually get anything out of it.
So go for it.
That's a 5 and a 3.
So 2 against a difficulty of 2 is still a tie.
Okay. Can I invoke warned by my future self telling me that monsters poured out of the Arctic from behind those doors? Not necessarily. I think maybe that's a stretch.
Well, there isn't an aspect. It's a fact.
Okay.
It's not one of your aspects. So you need to have spent...
my other aspect. It's warned by my future self.
Oh, so it is. I beg your pardon. Yes, it is. No, you could do.
Okay, then I would like to do that to get a...
Fine. Now, yeah. I think that's cost you 2 fate points. 1 for the reroll and now for this invoke.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So that will get you to success. And I think that they are now prepared to have you attend, but they say it's weeks away. We're still working. Our reading suggests that they're not just physically sealed. There seems to be some kind of magnetic field operating. Let me cut back to Nessa in this intriguing hut. What we know that you have to know how that works, Nessa. You are muted.
I want to know what everything is here. I mean, I am a mechanic and I am an engineer, and I am going through and I want to figure out what everything is here. I mean, I in the back of my mind, like, oh, if I get caught, I'll just say, oh, I thought this was part of our technical stuff. I'm not believing that that's necessarily going to work, but that's what's in my brain justifying my doing this.
Is this looking at it and working out how it works, or is this actually tinkering? Investigate or craft is what I'm saying to you, I think.
I think actually I've already done my little sort of walking around. I want to get my hands in it. So yeah, I'm tinkering.
Crafts it is.
So let me roll here.
Difficulty, I think, is 3.
Okay. So that is a 4.
So 4 overall, or 4 versus my 3?
4 versus your 3.
Okay, so success. And you think this is some kind of control for a device that would alter a magnetic field.
Okay, so this might be.
This isn't the device itself, but this is how you would control it.
Then my next step will be, this is how we break that, or put a weakness in it for the future is my next step.
Okay, so
if I'm not caught in the meantime.
Indeed. McFee, Nessa has now been gone, as I say, for about 30, maybe getting on for 40 minutes, and it should not take her this long to just walk around the camp, stretch her legs, and get the lay of the land. What, if anything, do you want to do?
I'm gonna go out to look out for her. I'm gonna take my coat, but just keeping it open just in case she would have ventured outside for some reason. And,
she definitely was going outside. She took her parka.
Oh, she took her coat.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I took the coat and a few stuff like a flashlight and stuff, whatever is at hand.
So let's see how good you are at finding someone in the snow in the dark. I've not thought about time of year and Antarctic endless light or dark. We'll assume a normal diurnal cycle. So I think
endless
this is
twilight.
Yeah, perpetual twilight. So unless you tell me you've got a different idea, I think this is investigate.
Yeah. I think that would be investigate. Yeah. So.
And I think it's going to be 3 as a difficulty.
Okay, let's roll. 4 and 4.
So that's 0 plus your skill, which is 2 investigate. So currently you are tied. So, and I'll remind you what tied means in finding her. Succeed at a minor cost.
I think I could find her, but I was outside following. I imagine. I mean, I'm picturing the thing, so I guess I was following a rope outside. I find her, but I lost the rope, so I lost my connection to the inside.
Okay, let's have a blizzard come out of nowhere, and you are following the rope from building to building, and then you come to a door which is just slightly creaking open. Yeah.
Yep.
And that's when I will take that boost and have someone hit you. So let us have you roll to defend yourself against my attack, which is going to be 2 plus my boost, 4. So you are surprised when someone or something comes out of the blizzard behind you and whacks you. So will you dodge it, or will you try to parry it, for want of a better word, using your fight?
Yeah, I'll try to stop the hit and sort of scuffle with that. My roll was a +2, if I understand correctly.
Yeah, and your fight is quite a lot, isn't it? 3. Yeah.
Yep, it's 3 fight.
So
5.
that's 5 against my attack of 4. And again, if I take you to the doing stuff, attack or defend. So you succeed. If NPC could be harmed, NPC takes effort as stress. Otherwise, treat as great advantage. So I think that in this scuffle, you managed to wrench the let's call it a wrench. It's a spanner out of his hand or their hand, and whack them with it before they melt back into the blizzard.
Okay, they didn't literally melt.
No. Yeah, sorry. I have to
That
be
could
careful.
happen.
It is that kind of game. Nessa, you hear a scuffle outside the door.
My pockets are filled with safety knives and screwdrivers and a ball peen hammer in one hand as I'm turning around and getting ready to lay waste.
So you're just going to go at this?
No, I'm not going to attack. I just getting myself ready, like I'm gathering my materials.
Sorry, I've just made the connection. Yeah. Fine. But there's, in the howling blizzard, is McFee, kind of just with a wrench in his hand with some blood on it, having just seen off an attacker.
Need to take better care of your tools. Get inside.
What are you up to here? What's going on? Who's that guy?
Did you see who it was? Did you see anything?
No, but they were right behind you, apparently.
Shit.
Lucky I was there.
I thought somebody saw me break into here before. Look, there's something weird in here, connected to some technical stuff. We need to get out of here, get back to the bunkhouse, and we need to get in contact with Quinn and Rook.
Okay, but let's stick together very close because there's so much blizzard there. You wouldn't see anything.
I've got some harness and ropes, things that are here. We'll just grab onto that and see if we can belt hook and let's go.
All right, well, let's do that.
You're muted.
You will make it back to the bunkhouse. Rook and Quinn, what arrangements before arriving did you have for making contact? Because you're here ostensibly in 2 entirely separate spheres that wouldn't routinely interact, I guess.
I think we've got some sort of visual signal, as in, like, when we pass each other around the base, kind of thing. It's a small base, really. Where the only place to go is here, effectively. And it can be like you've got your collar turned up or something, and we know to meet each other in, like, a fairly isolated area where we could pretend to be going for a smoke break or something.
I wonder if we've had a chance to, because as you said, this is quite a public expedition. I wonder if we've kind of had a look at some of the live streams and kind of pre-noted places where we could meet without drawing attention.
And some kind of signal that says, when my backpack is against the window of my dormitory, then we need to meet. Something, some signal.
Yeah.
Oh, so Moscow rules.
Well, here's a question I have is, do we have, they've got like media here. So they clearly provided for some kind of communication. So do they have satellites? Can we send via phone?
I think that there's no reason at all why you shouldn't be able to access the Wi-Fi network they have set up here and just use a secure WhatsApp group.
It'd be Signal, I think, for this. Yeah.
we use the DG app. I had to download it. It's got a little green pyramid. I will send. I don't want to send like details beyond the photos. We get whatever signal it is for us to meet up, and I send them all the shots from the secure cabin.
Yeah.
Fine. Ostensibly, Nessa, what is your role? We know that McFee is here pretty much as labor. Drive a tractor across to, whatever. But what exactly do you think Nessa is here?
Mechanic.
Is she so? And presumably all the mechanics are on the rota to go to the excavation site.
Yeah.
Okay. So the logical next opportunity for you to get together would be tomorrow, when Delacour and Worth are going to show Quinn and Rook where they're doing the work. Yeah. So I don't have a problem with you having an opportunity either in the trailer that's dragging you there, maybe on the pretense of we need to talk to some of the people who work for you, in order to find out what the truth is. I'm channeling a school inspection now. Then perhaps that's the opportunity for you to be in the back of this snowcat.
And I think I would have tried to, if we could during the process, that there's some things that have to be hauled, get McFee to help me. Maybe they're along essentially to do the ready labor to help on this stuff.
Yeah, it's too dramatically inconvenient for you all not to be in the back of the same snowcat. So there you are.
I think this is when I make the connection, as we're talking about what we all found out. This is where I make the connection that equipment is to control something to open those doors.
Not the machine that actually does it, but as you say, it's a control mechanism. So we've got to keep an eye out if that's on site already. And we need to find out. They've clearly then got somebody here who's a technician or whatever to manage that. We need to find out who that is. Keep your eyes out for anybody with a massive bruise on their head from McFee.
Mm-hmm.
You hit him in the head, right, McFee?
Yeah, I hit it.
Okay.
Did you cover your tracks?
Well, you've seen
It's
the
a
blizzard out there.
We can both go in the blizzard.
I meant the door, Nessa.
Yes. Doors shut back up.
Right. You didn't get a chance to scrap it. Sabotage the machine.
Thought that was premature, given we didn't know what we were facing, and if I alerted people now.
You think you could?
Oh yeah. Yes.
Do you think you could do it without anyone knowing that it was sabotaged?
Once again, I have to say yes. She's actually taken some umbrage that you have to ask that question.
I look over. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was going to. I was going to ask Nessa, how specialized is the control equipment? Is this something where are we going to stop them until they can get more thrown in, or are we just going to slow them down until they can jury rig something more crude?
That's a really good question, which I will turn to the GM to ask.
Look, Nessa tinkered with it. It is conventional equipment from her point of view. It would be relatively easy to simply break it. It would be more difficult to break it so no one knew you'd broken it or who'd broken it, or give you some time before it was discovered to be broken. But it's just tech.
Yeah.
So if you break it, it could be rebuilt.
It could be rebuilt, but here we've got scarce resources, so breaking it is a delay. But
we break it at the right time.
Yeah.
I wonder if
the machine itself that is doing this may be a different story.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if we need to rig
shit.
I wonder if we need to rig the control equipment to break the machine when it's switched on.
I have to see the machine first.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm liking where that's going.
Okay, well, We need a plan B. McFee, there's an explosive shed.
I like
think it
the
would
way
be-
you're thinking.
Now, I think it would be very useful to have some of that in our back pocket.
Okay, I get you. So, someone come with me and be on the lookout, or should I go on my own?
Well, remember at the moment you're in the back of a snowcat on the way to the dig site. So
I think we're going to have to play this one slow until we know more about what's going on. Maybe if we can get up to the doors, or see if they ever find Dr. Young's body. But we need to be prepared for when it happens. So we get explosives and we try and track down this machine, and we keep an eye out for Hamilton and whoever it was who attacked McFee.
because Hamilton was having dinner with you at the
Yes.
point McFee describes being attacked.
Yeah.
I think that we will probably cut to the dig site where there's this kind of ice and snow has been excavated away. They got lots of diggers on site clearing it away. And now most of this arch, one door and half the other door is exposed. Avery Quinn, you have been exposed to alien energies. I'm going to compel that to give you a seizure. Yeah? You can have the fate point and just have a kind of moment, or you can pay me a fate point and that won't happen.
I think I'm quite rich in fate points now. I think I feel it coming on and I fight it.
Fine. So that is you giving me a fate point, and you feel there is something about those doors that is so reminiscent of what you have felt in the future. And you go white and maybe sway but then steady yourself. McFee, you'll be allocated to clearing more of this ice wall away, unless you want to do something else.
I guess when we clear ice, we're not too far from the explosive, because I guess in some circumstances we use some of it.
The explosives are back at the base, because there's a hut marked explosives. There are no explosives here. This is being done using diggers and ice cutters and mechanical means, so as not to damage the artifact, this remarkable thing. So are you content to be cutting the ice away?
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think
Unobserved.
I would like to have slipped one of my occult science instruments to McFee to bring into close proximity of the door.
Which occult instruments do you possess? I'm just looking at the character sheet and not seeing anything.
I don't think it can be anything particularly complicated, because I showed up naked with nothing.
Exactly.
So I think I will have acquired let's say I have acquired
Can I just stop you before you invest too much in this?
Yeah.
If it was important enough for you to have acquired it, it would be a stunt or an aspect.
Okay.
Yeah.
In which case, I simply need to get close to the door. So I need to work out some way of that happening.
You may be able to construct something on site, not on the dig site, but back at base, using means. But you're just going to go and look at the door, which Natalie and Delacour and Worth are very, very happy to show you the doors. Rook, what about you?
I think that I've actually, we're here for the dig site, right? Quinn's checking out the door. I say that I need to oversee the work. So I'm where McFee is digging away and all of that kind of thing. I'm looking at the actual close-up work kind of thing as it gets
With a
darker.
clipboard.
With a clipboard, yeah, and you know, a holstered gun underneath my jacket.
Nessa, what about you?
I am looking to, obviously I'm here to check and make sure all the machinery, all the tools, everything is A-okay. I'm going around and I'm looking for that, especially if I get waved away from anything.
Oh, you definitely get waved away from something. There's somebody working. There's a big tent, you know, well lashed down, proper, you know, winter conditions tent, and that has got a couple of people at the flap. And as you go towards them, they say, "No, it's okay. The technicians are. It's fine." And that, I think, is where we'll take our second break. Shall we say from now till 10 past the hour? See you then. Okay, back from our last break. Yeah, Nessa, you're kind of waved away by these guys who say, "No, sorry, this is off limits. It's only the techs are allowed in here."
I'm texting Rook and Quinn to say, "There's where you need to go."
But I think, Nessa, I'm inclined to invoke a timeline aspect. I will spend a fate point to invoke Nyarlathotep always has a plan. And inside, Nessa, you will hear, "Oh my God, this is fantastic. Did somebody alter the settings?" Let's go to Rook and McFee at the ice face.
Standing,
Totally.
ticking off, nodding at McPhee as he puts his back into it.
Use your knees.
And Quinn, just along from them, 10 or 15 feet away, you're coming up to the door with Delacour and Worth. And they say, and so, you know, it's simply remarkable. Now, we're not archaeologists. You know, we've brought some archaeologists with us, obviously. But it's, you know, if you look at this, you'd think it was in, I don't know, Cairo. But, you know, the Antarctic? It's amazing, isn't it? But you'll see that, you know, the area is cordoned off. There's no way that any of our, you know, we're doing any harm to the environment. You know, once the archaeologists done their stuff, we'll fill it all back in. It, you know, just absolutely on the money.
And so I am feigning a combination of polite interest and looking at the structures around to make sure that they're not leaking anything, they're not dangerous to the environment. But really what I'm doing is stealing as many looks as I can at the symbols on the doors. And I am using law, I presume, law or investigate. Well, it doesn't really matter because they're both +3.
I think this is law. Well, I think you're trying to interpret what you're seeing, aren't you?
Yes. Then
I think that's law. And I think that this is difficulty 4, because this is unknowable.
Let's see whether I can know the unknowable. Well, I get a very high rolling, but a -1 overall on the... So that gives me a 2 at the moment with my law.
Yep.
But can I invoke Professor of Occult Sciences to give myself a +2
I would
on that?
frankly be surprised if you didn't. So reduce your fate points by 1, and that gives you 2 versus. So sorry, you got to 2 plus 2.
That's a 4 versus 4. So
that's a tie.
Yep. I think I'm going to leave it as a tie because that's interesting.
Okay. Okay. So
I'm far too much in the play to lose mindset for fate, but
okay.
I'll go with it.
Okay. Okay. I think that a boost, such as a minor cost is that your studying is noticed, but not by Delacour and Worth, who are continuing to witter on about how they're going to protect the site and all of this. But a voice just appears on her shoulder and says, I see you're fascinated by it.
I turn and I say, who wouldn't be?
Is it a field you're interested in? Says a tall, graying gentleman who introduces himself as hi, Michael Lewis. And Worth turns around and says, "Oh, Professor Lewis, this is our chief archaeologist."
I've rarely found a field that I'm not interested in, but I have to say I have no special knowledge of archaeology. If you could, I look at my watch and kind of mutter something about being due for a break anyway, and say to this Professor Lewis, if I'd love to learn what your initial findings are over coffee.
Yes, I certainly. Let's do that, he says. But there is something creepy about him. Rook, you're with McFee at the ice face, about 15 feet, 20 feet away. You're going to have this door cleared, this remaining door, in no time at all, McFee, because the machines are really going at it and there's a decent team of you at it. That's when the text message comes through to both of you. Quinn is busy talking to somebody, but Rook and McFee can see this message that says, look over your left shoulder. That's where you need to be.
Frowny face. Then there's a space where you see me typing it. Oh, fuck, I think they've got it working.
Part of me is like, let's put some explosives underneath this snow right now so we can blow whatever comes through the door. But I think I like pat McFee like on the shoulder and just gesture in my head, and I go off walking. And the suggestion is that he just like comes at a like, so we're not walking together, but like we're walking. The idea is that we're all going to meet up in a sort of rough some way of getting into that tent and trying to stop what's going on.
Nessa, as you're finishing that message and they're deciding what to do, someone kind of bursts out of the tent, hurriedly putting their parka on, running towards the person we now know to be Professor Michael Lewis. Professor!
I am moving to whatever resources I have, mechanical-wise, gasoline-wise, whatever flares, heating things, and it's kind of a montage of me walking and picking things up from various places, and I am working to build. It's not going to be a potent thing, but I would like it to be at the very least distracting. I want to craft an item to that effect.
Fine. And Rook and McFee, you're kind of drifting towards this tent. At the same time, this younger woman is kind of running from the tent past you towards this guy talking to Quinn.
I just glance, look at Quinn, and then just back on mission straight over towards the thing. And I think we can sort of like linger slightly to let McFee catch up, and we're sort of walking together, not looking together, but kind of and I'm like, yeah, we need to break this thing. We need to break this thing now.
Quinn, this young woman has finally got a hood up, but she's clearly excited. She says, Professor, I wish I could tell you what we've done, but all the readings say we're ready to go. And he says, that's tremendous, Wendy. And he looks to Worth and Delacour and says, with your permission, you are technically the lead investigators. And they say, oh, yeah, absolutely. Quinn, what do you do?
I think I put my official demeanor back on, and I look to Delacour and say would you explain to me what's about to happen here? Because clearly something's about to happen.
And she's got her arms around your shoulder, is kind of guiding you away from the door. She says, well, it looks like in the next hour we would be able to open it. The Professor Lewis's tech folks have been mapping the magnetic field around this place, and they say that they cracked it. And as you are guided away with Lewis, Worth catches up with him, and you hear her say, Professor, we did agree that we would make sure the media and everything else was involved. The church was very insistent on that. So is that okay? Can we do that? And he says, well, let Wendy check her figures, and then I suppose you could notify those that need to know, and then we could do this first thing tomorrow. McFee, you're following Rook, or you're with Rook as you approach the tent. Yep. What do you do, McFee?
So the girl already passed me by?
And is now heading back with the Professor and Quinn and Delacour and Worth back in the direction. But you've got a head start on them in terms of getting to the tent.
So I will speed up to go to the tent.
Okay.
Little trot.
So Rook, McFee is just jogging past you towards the tent.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do?
I stop and intercept the coming people, and I nod McFee on to Nessa, who I imagine I can see sort of like tucked behind a tent, like around a corner, like rapidly doing something. Yeah.
Well, this would be a good time to ask Nessa. As McFee is just jogging towards the tent, Rook has stopped to distract the people coming towards it. What are you doing, Nessa?
I'm building a bomb. That is what I am doing.
Okay. That sounds like craft. But I guess we don't need you to roll until the point where the bomb goes off. Then we'll know whether it was good or not. What are you doing with this bomb that you are confident you have made?
I am... I think I text Rook, and this is not to Quinn or McFee. I text Rook, I have a bomb.
I think you know what Rook's opinions on, extreme prejudices, and it's always 100% in. Then
it's
Question
determine
mark.
Targets and time.
It's as far as Rook's concerned, I think the idea is that you and McFee getting that tent, sabotage that thing, the bomb, a distraction to cover it up, or however you use it is good with him, but it needs to be, we're not in control of this situation. This is we need to control it.
Is there anyone of our agents in that tent currently?
No.
Then I think I'm just going to roll this bomb.
McFee is jogging towards it.
Rook, stop McFee.
I think you can wave him off, because he's running past, and I've already pointed him in your direction.
Let's just see how this plays out. McFee is jogging towards the tent. because that's what he's been told to do.
Yeah.
Rook is peeled off. So what do you do with this bomb?
Well, this bomb, I'm gonna, lift the back of this tent, and I'm gonna roll it under a machine and blow it up.
Okay. So this is improvised. So I think that your craft is certainly up to that. I'm going to make the difficulty to actually destroy it with just stuff you've picked up in the last 5 minutes. I'm going to make that 4.
Okay. Let's start with the roll, and then we'll figure out how to make up for that. So I'm at a standing 7 right now.
My goodness me.
Which
so
is success with style.
It is. It is.
So I won't drop any fate points on that.
Okay. So that looks like succeed, achieve your goals, say what you do next, and get a boost doing it.
Stopping McFee is what I'm doing next.
Okay. So you roll it under there, and then you need to stop McFee. McFee, now look, McFee, you seem to me to be a very straightforward kind of guy.
Oh yeah, that I am.
What will it take to stop you bursting into that tent?
I mean, just notice in the weather and the conditions that the people in my team are calling out to me not to enter the tent.
Okay, I think that's a straightforward notice
then I've got
roll.
Trouble.
Now, I'm just looking for a difficulty for this, and I think that probably. Which skill do you think applies to Nessa's efforts to stop him?
Me?
No, Nessa.
I think, well, quite honestly, I think it's rapport or provoke, both of which I have a +0 in. Okay. But I will take that boost.
Okay, so the difficulty was going to be 4 because of the 0 skill. The difficulty now becomes 2, McFee. So do you notice against a difficulty of 2? Or are you going to get close to that tent?
So notice, okay, I got 1 in notice.
So roll the dice.
That's absolutely amazing. Oh, I rolled only 1 die. I'm going to roll the second one. Come on, stop deselecting. Okay, I just rolled 1.
1.
Just 1, 2.
2. So you are tied, McFee. So what that means is that you are going to succeed at a minor cost, which is likely to be caught in the explosion to some degree, unless you want to make things better by spending a fate point and invoking.
So what do I see, Nessa? You waving or you send me a message?
Just like...
So I get away then at my pace.
So you don't want to move from tie to success is what I'm trying to get at here.
No, I don't think it makes sense. So
okay. So the explosion goes off before you can get entirely far away from it, and you're blown across the ice. I think that's probably going to do 2 stress because so physical stress, mark 2. Nessa, I'm assuming you got far enough away. If you'd stayed closer, you'd have had more chance of waving me off, perhaps. But there's an explosion. And Quinn, something is released in that explosion. There is the fireball, but there's something else that the hairs on the back of your neck, Quinn, just ripple. What do you do?
I think I glance back, trying to be surreptitious at the doors and see if there's any, this makes me nervous that something like that something worked, even though there was this explosion, that something happened. So I want to check that the doors have reacted.
The doors behind you have not changed.
Mm-hmm.
But there was something else in that tent other than technology. So,
see, my initial plan, I don't know whether I can still do this, was to try and do something uncharacteristically agent and tradecraft-like, which is at the point at which the explosion goes off, I want to grab Professor Lewis, throw him to the ground in a pretense of protecting him, and try and get something in his pocket. Try and if he has something kind of like a wallet or a phone or something, I want to have that.
So you want to pick his pocket?
I want to pick his pockets, which is burglary, which is 0.
It is indeed burglary. So you throw yourself against him and try to pick his pocket. I think it's an anorak. It's going to be, this is going to be really difficult. You have to unzip the frigging thing. This is going to be very difficult, Avery, before you embark on it. I'm looking at a difficulty here of 4 or even 5.
Can I, if I fail at something, can I just choose not to do it, or are there automatically consequences?
Well, I think what it says in the doing stuff thing is fail, the GM says how things get more complicated. You'd have to get up there to tie, a major cost would be getting caught.
I'm having second thoughts. I think I still do the kind of not trying to knock Professor Lewis to the ground in an apparent effort to protect him, but I'm not trying to pickpocket anything. Instead, I'm trying to slow him down. Okay.
I mean, which way you come at it, that sounds like fight.
Mm-hmm.
Grapple. Yeah? So do you successfully bring him to the ground, albeit trying to feel like you've protected him? Difficulty, I don't think he's a very physical man. I think the difficulty here is 1.
Let's roll. And I get 1 off my dice, so that's a tie. And if I can find characters again, then I think I just go with that tie.
Okay, so succeed at a minor cost. I think the minor cost is that you take a couple of points of physical stress with the effort, but you do slow him down. You don't, however, slow down Jenny Wilson, his tech, who is racing to the tent. Rook, you turned round. You were going to distract them. The explosion has gone off. Jenny Wild is running to the tent.
I run in front of her and whip out my official credentials, and I'm like, get back, and I turn and run towards the thing, and I'm like, stand down, kind of fully taking control of the situation, which I guess is a provoke.
I think that's provoke. Step away from the burning tent. I'm with the EPA.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, federal agent. I scream out as I do it. Yeah. I'm wondering
I think difficulty is going to be quite high because she really wants to get to that tent.
Does any of the previous work come into this in any way? The setting up our kind of jurisdiction and our whole
that gives you fictional positioning to
Okay,
even
sure.
try it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I think difficulty here is going to be 4, because Jenny Wilson wants to get to that tent.
Okay. Well, I will roll and let's see what I get. 3-1 with a 0. So am I tied in that situation?
So you're 2 versus 3.
So I am 1 away. Is that right?
You are.
Can I invoke paranoid with a reason in this case? As in that, like, or perhaps CIA wet worker?
I think the CIA wet worker is
Yeah.
probably where the authority comes here.
Yeah. Cool. So I will do
Spend
that.
a fate point,
Yes.
and you will succeed. And she will kind of, but there are people in there, she says.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is, and I'm just coordinate, and I'm like, you check on that man, like pointing at McFee, and I'm just going to go into that like area as close as possible, and I'm going to like try and see whatever it is that I can see in there, and if someone's there, I'll help them out, kind of.
But I think McFee is more likely to get, because you've sent McFee. McFee, there's this tent is aflame, but there's not a lot of material here to actually burn once the blast goes off. So, there are tattered bits of burning tent. What, if anything, do you do, McFee?
I look around. Is there anybody hurt by the explosion?
I think that you can see 2 burned bodies in the debris.
Wow. I'm gonna look at them if I can do anything for them.
Fine. I think they are gone. It's apparent. Just looking at them, they are dead.
Well, I try to cover them with a piece of fabric, maybe whatever remains from the tent. Try to make it decent.
And as Professor Lewis is getting up, he turns to Delacour and Worth and says, it seems that the stars were not aligned on this project, doctors. We'll need to think again. I don't think that Jenny will be able to rebuild that. Okay? And that, I think, is where the mission plays out. I want to leave us enough time to look at the impact of that on the timeline track. Yeah. Now, I have marked 2 resistance successes so far. 1 for Illtyd. I cannot now remember why. I think it was seeing off a minion, the person who attacked him. And I've also marked Nessa's, because I think you were foiled, whichever minion was interested in opening that door. Yeah? So if you go to the end of session tab, we can work through it. First of all, there are the milestones. So you'll see end of session minor milestones. At the end of a session, you can but don't have to do one of the following. Yeah? Because this is also the end of an event, you also have access to the major milestones on the far side. Yeah? So you can do one of the things on the left-hand side there, and you could do all of the following on the right-hand side. It's much more generous in terms of how you can tinker your characters. I'm not going to ask you to do that now. I'll just ask you to look at that between now and next time, and then let me know what you're doing. But at the bottom, you'll see end of an event impact on the timeline. Agree with the players which of the event catalysts have been changed by their actions, and agree how this changes the event's aspect. So let us go to the track, and this is all eyes are on Antarctica. Which of those 4 things, person, place, thing, or foe, do you think you have impacted?
Maybe the media attention. Clearly that was really important. So as a thing, like that getting in here and getting the cameras and getting a view so people saw this all get opened, that now this is a laughing stock and no one's going to take it seriously?
I think immense doors in the mountain. Let me just alter that.
And I'm just throwing it out there if anybody else has a better idea.
I think
Yeah, I think
short
that's
of immense doors in the mountain remain closed. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the impact of that on the timeline aspect is Antarctica is old news. Does that seem fair? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we look at agree which of the event classes the Rise of the Great World is. So hang on. So now we look at, can you see that there are ripples in time at the top right hand corner? Yeah. Each one of you, Callum and Lowell, your characters had one resistance success. So I'm now going to tick 2 of the boxes in the resistance track. Yeah.
Okay.
If we'd filled 4, it would have cleared and I'd have marked a ripple in time. Yeah. I don't think the great old ones got any successes out of that. None of you invoked anything vaguely corrupted. None of the, you know, you can make successes by invoking the timeline aspects, but I can't. So I don't think there are any successes on the great old one. But because you didn't fill the resistance track, there is no ripple in time. And so the Rise of the Great Old One down there at the bottom does not change. You will have to impact in the next event more to change the ultimate outcome. You have thrown pebbles into the water, but you have not done enough to really change the timeline yet.
Nice.
Do you get where I'm going?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the other thing you might want to do between now and next time is to look at those triggers for the resistance and the great old one successes. And when you're playing, look to leverage those, because that's the way that you make the Rise of Nyarlathotep less catastrophic to humanity.
I dig it.
Okay. So I will now erase the 2 resistance successes that we had because we've moved them over onto the other sheet. And that is our game for tonight. I would like a quick stars and wishes, if that's okay, because I'm conscious that some of you have not played Fate before and none of you have played this incarnation. And I just need to check in. So let me start. Character keeper order, Lowell, any stars?
You're muted, Lowell.
Unmute myself. Let me unmute myself. So, you know, I've actually run a lot of Fate. I had a chance to play with Mike Olson, the guy who wrote Atomic Robo, and he ran a very different Fate than I do, and a very different Fate than you do. Very aspect heavy, very mechanical heavy. You're running much more on the wavelength of what I like with Fate. A much more lighter touch. We're not filling the table with aspects. We're moving through quickly. We're resolving things big scale. It's exactly what I want. It's much closer to our homebrew that we've been playing for about 17, 18 years. And I'm really digging it. And I say, you know, as a person who really likes Fate, I thought this was very good. The timeline thing is very interesting, and I'm really liking that. But that aside, all those mechanical things, I really like the characters. Like McFee came out of left field for me, but I really want to get McFee more centered next time. But I like all the characters, and I like the dynamic we've established here quickly, and I hope that we can mix up the pairings for next time. But I'm digging it.
Yeah, I mean, I will want you to think about your relationship aspect, because it's really difficult to do those until you've had a bit of contact with the characters.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the other thing to think about. Okay, Will, any stars?
Well, you know, thank you for being patient with fate. I think I get it. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, that's been great. And I really like the mission. You know, like we've got a purpose and a deadline and something to work against. And I enjoy that. It's an investigation as well as a kind of, you know, gets things done. And that's certainly like how I felt we approached this, is in the case of like, you know, we'll blow it all up if we have to, but whatever it takes.
It feels much more like Delta Green than it does, I don't know, Bookhounds of London or something.
Yeah, Bookhounds of London. Yeah.
For example.
Yeah, I really loved all the characters and the relationships and the sort of like the different degrees that we're all in, and I'm enjoying like the kind of, you know, the mission from the future. Like I've, you know, watched Tenet, Terminator, Prince of Darkness, etc. All those kinds of things. And I really want to call out like Callum and the guide ropes and the squall, because honestly, the second you said we were at Antarctica, I was like, we have to have a scene where there is a storm and you can't see and it's exposed and you've got to pull your way through those guide ropes to get back.
Yeah, I'd like the star color for that, because I was kicking myself when I was trying to get him to go outside. I should have said, and then the blizzard arrives and Nessa and thank you for inserting the blizzard. That was that made that scene. Thank you. Moving along, Bodhi.
I really like the variety in our characters, kind of the how we all, both the mechanical variety, how we're all kind of focused on different skills, different approaches, but also we've all got slightly different motivations, slightly different kind of reasons for being in this together, but in a way that kind of holds together. And I think that makes a really fun party to play with.
Well, when you check out, look at the note in the relationship aspect, because it encourages you to have a relationship with someone that opens the door for a bit of friction. No antagonism, a bit of friction. So think of the positive stuff that's come out this time, and then see, how can I just put some grit in there, because that will open the door to more compels. And, you know, compels mean prizes. And finally, Kaloum, first game of Fate. Anything?
Well, I really enjoyed just Lowell straightforward bringing a bomb in the middle of the game. I think that was great. Wishes, I hope I would be less sick next time, because I really was at 60%, including today during the character creation. And beyond that, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not sure Fate is my thing, so I'm trying to discover it, but I think it's not a judgment of quality of Fate, but I think in terms of taste and comfort, it might be right outside my realm. It's a bit free form, but not free form. It's actually quite complex. There's a lot of stuff going on. So I need to get my head around that. And to be honest, I'm on the fence. Like, yeah, I'm not sure it's gonna be my thing anyway. So I'm just gonna try a bit harder. But the conclusion might be, okay, that's great, but it's not for me.
Oh yeah, I finished a run of Aegon at the weekend, and I think that isn't everybody's game either. So I don't worry about that.
I think it's amazing with role-playing game right now. You got so many stuff doing so many different things, and sort of my wish. But again, I'm not sure if it's got its room for that here. Especially with the relationship with the characters. I love the characters. I love the cast. I would really like to have opportunities to interact in character a bit more space there, because I thought it was really fast-paced and always on the story layer, and never or almost none on the character layer, or very limited. So just having the character, it can be during an action scene or during a cool off somewhat scene, but having the ability to exchange dialogue lines between characters, that's more of my thing, and that's how I build up attachment between the characters. So that's something I would like to wish for, but at the same time, I'm conscious that it's maybe not the the table for that, because here it's more about story, and I respect that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be naive of me to promise you that in session 2, because we said we try to stick to the mission structure for 1 and 2. At the end of session 2, I think we'll have a conversation about that, about the degree to which we want to commit to more missions, or where we want to open and give it a bit more space. Very happy to try that. Any wishes? Lowell, I'm not sure. More McFee, I picked up.
Right.
Is there anything else specific?
I want to mention that I thought that Bodhi did a good job of actually bringing in the sort of we're all problem solvers. I'm a problem solver when it comes to these kinds of games. And I thought Bodhi did a good job of bringing in sort of the outside, more of the character interaction stuff. And a wish for myself is that I can follow suit and bring a little bit more of that dimension and color into the game next time.
Yeah, it is too easy in Fate to be sucked down the mechanical rabbit hole, aim for the dice roll, and move on. And I would admit that that is probably my default. So please stop me if I am accelerating you out of scenes or out of interactions where you want them to carry on. Good wish. Will, any specific wishes?
I mean, again, I would like to have stuff with McFee, like kind of playing to the strengths, and I suppose likewise at some point I would like to do things going loud. I've made the muscle character effectively, I think, complemented by McFee going loud, and we
threw a bomb.
Yes.
And you're asking for us to go loud.
Yes. But again, that's one of those things where I also want to play a character that's that's not does the most effective thing, right? And I think that's again with the I would like to follow Lowell in that suggestion to try and open more character stuff, but I have kind of made a character who is the mission, and my whole thing for him is that he will kill every single one of you to get this done, and himself and anything else that stands in his way, basically.
Do you play any other kind of character? You were playing the same in Duskwall.
Yeah, was I in Duskwall? Well, he wasn't going to kill anyone, just his enemies.
He is Brindlewood Bay. He is that character is very much not this.
If he was that in Brindlewood Bay, I was like, what are you doing?
I'm not that in Brindlewood Bay. But yes, I think the relationships will help with that.
Yeah. Well, I've roughed yours out already. Would kill any of them. Bodhi, any specific wishes for next time?
So I'd like to work out how to invoke timeline aspects, because I was looking at them and trying to figure out how I would do that, and I didn't get there this time. So it's kind of
here's an example off the top of my head. Nyarlathotep is confident. Invoke that as a bonus to convince the people that you believe are involved in his plots to do something.
The confidence
they're
becomes
overconfident. Yeah.
Yep.
That was the one that immediately bobs to the top of my. And then Nyarlathotep has a plan. Invoke it for it to be the wrong plan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
On that subject, could Church of the Starry Wisdom is Powerful and Growing be a case of they suddenly face themselves with like the IRS audit or something, and it like impacts upon their.
If, for instance, you would invoke that when you were trying to spot the Starry Wisdoms, you might have got a bigger success.
Right, I see. Cool.
Because they are powerful and growing, therefore there are more about than you might.
Yeah, we might have some sort of intel on them before we got there, even because they're
conceivably.
Rising. Yeah,
conceivably.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, and I pick up on that. Kaluma, I think I got yours. Your wishes.
Yeah. I mean, just as a reaction to what everyone says. It's just an idea, but to give a little room in terms of dialogue interaction, maybe. Again, it might be not the place, but if we have to break a lock or something like that, feel free to set things as a game master. You say, "Oh, this situation is like that. This room is like that," and then we have a dialogue facing that situation rather than come up with the situation together. But again, that might not be the place for that. But if you do a mix, a bit of that, some nuggets of that here and there, that might give us a little bit of wiggle room here and there to have a little bit of development before we are on a break in the team in between the big events which are planned. Is just an idea.
Okay. My wishes are to get you going next time and see you alter the timeline properly. I want you up to your knees in corruption as swiftly as possible. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording. So wave bye to the internet.